Corn School on RealAgriculture.com is brought to you by Headline Amp Fungicide and Pride Seeds.
Hey, Kara Oosteros here with RealAgriculture.com. I am back here today with another Corn School episode, and I have here with me Sara Meidlinger, who is a market development agronomist with Pride Seeds. How's it going today?
I'm pretty good. How are you, Kara?
I'm doing good. So earlier this spring, we talked about we looked at some trials that you were conducting when it comes to Emergence, and we are now looking at some of those results as we sit in the end of season. What sorts of things have we found?
Yeah, for sure. So I guess I'll go back and just kind of explain what we did. So what we did is after planting, we went out to a trial, a hybrid trial, and we marked 1/1000th of an acre with a flag within all 7 different strips. And then once everything started to emerge, every day something emerged. So like day 1, day 2, day 3, we flagged out how many plants actually emerged into the soil. And then, going back, we can say, okay, so between 15 days to 19 days after planting, that's when, 99% of all the plants within the field emerged. So now we're just kind of looking back, seeing, okay, what percentage emerged early in the season, what emerged late, and how is that going to affect, ear development and cobs.
So what did you actually find when it comes to these percentages?
Sure. So we found that our total population was a little bit lower than we expected. So we were targeting 34,000, ended up being about 29,000. So that's an important thing to check. And then in the spring, you can check what happened. In the fall, it's very hard to do that, but something we learned. Then we learned that within the first 2 days after planting, so 15 and 16 days after planting, 80% of our plants emerged. So that's great. That's really good. It means we're really we're getting fairly even. It's not perfect, but it's going to be fairly good. There's not going to be too much difference in leaf development between those 2 days. So, that 80%, that's great. And then, we found one plant that emerged on the very last day, and we didn't actually see any ear development. So that's lost potential. If we had that much, how much more could that contribute? And if you lost 1 ear for every acre, or, for every row even per acre, like it could definitely add up to a few bushels. So that's one of the reasons why it is really important to have that even emergence, because we know that things that emerge really late, if they even set an ear, then it's going to be less than, but they don't always set an ear.
So what did you see when it came to ear development?
For sure. So we looked at everything that emerged on, the first 2 days that we were doing the trial. So day 15 and 16 after planting, we saw that we averaged about 33 kernels long and about 13 kernels around. And we know corn kernels, the girth is always going to be 12 or 14, but, when we take an average, it was about 13. So that's a nice size ear for, early season hybrid, 20, 25 heat unit product. But then on the later emerged plants, so if we go 17, 18, 19 days later after planting, we saw less consistency in the girth. It was kind of all over the place. And then we also saw less length. And then we also saw smaller kernel size. So that's something that, even if you were getting 34 in the length, the kernel size was much smaller. So we didn't evaluate the test weight or the moisture, but that's definitely something you could do to just see another factor or more factors that are affected by delayed emergence.
So if you're doing a trial like this and you're noticing your emergence isn't quite even early on in the season, what are some of your recommendations as an agronomist that you can do to tackle that?
Yeah, so definitely looking at your planter in the winter or whenever you put it away, making the adjustments there. That's going to be number one, making sure your seed size is correct. But for that season, you might have, it's not going to be perfect, not even emergence, but there are other things you can do. You can maybe make sure you're on top of your weed control, or you can manage your nitrogen maybe a little bit more efficiently, or you can manage your irrigation a bit more efficiently if that's something that you have an opportunity. So there's other management techniques you can use, even though it's not going to be perfect emergence, to hopefully help with that yield or maintain, what you would have expected. And then going back, I think, in the winter and looking at your planter and assessing, okay, if we spend X dollars to get this X return back, how long does it take to pay off? And hopefully it's a quick return on investment.
Which kind of brings us to another point. We can conduct all these trials, but I know another point you wanted to make was actually gathering. Going back through, you had put out all the stops kind of at the beginning of the year to follow emergence, but to actually go and see what happened is a whole nother thing.
For sure. So when we put out our flags, it was nice and clean, and then a week later when things started popping up, the weeds started coming up as well, very timely. And it happened to be a kochia patch, probably or glyphosate resistant. So it didn't get under control all season long. So then even the results that we have, they were significantly impacted by weed control. We know that corn likes it clean until at least V6. So this had weed competition, pretty much from the day it emerged. So, we just did one strip instead of all the 7 that we kind of talked about. But it gives you an idea of how important your weed control is, as well as your emergence, I think.
Now, going forward, if a producer would be interested in conducting this sort of trial on their own farm, what sort of recommendations would you have for them?
Yeah, so definitely, it's not a hard one to do. It takes a little bit of time every day. So you got to try to be consistent with it. You just need, some flags or some stakes, and then you put them out every day. Make sure you take them out for harvest. We don't want flags going through combines or choppers. But you can just do that, and then you get an idea on your population. You can get an idea on how everything's developing. And then I know we all have really high hopes in the spring. We're like, oh, we're going to do X, Y, and Z. And then the follow through in the fall isn't always there, which I get. We're all busy. So try just to follow through. And whether you do, 5 of these and you can only follow through on one, that's still better than nothing. And, we did it on one strip. You could do it on your whole planter to see, okay, maybe row 4 and 5 are off, but everything else is looking good. So then you just need to make those adjustments to 1 row or 2 rows.
And how did you personally track data? Like, how do you, like you said, going out every single day, how do you recommend to a farmer that they actually track this data down?
Yeah, so I had a summer student who was about 20 minutes away from the trial. So he went out 5 days straight. And we said, and, maybe a couple days before, just to make sure we didn't miss anything. But we said, what, this is your number 1 job. And it doesn't take too long. I mean, if you can do it, 9, as soon as it's light out, right? 7 o'clock in the morning, do it for every day. And you never know what value you can get from a little bit more time spent in the field.